Tuesdays, TNT, thank you for dropping in. Yes, we have moved things around a little bit, but you're here for the news. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Let's get started. And the big announcement, which came in late last night, the Bangkok Post reporting that the House has been dissolved, an election date to be announced on Friday. The House of Representatives, which is the lower house in Thailand, 500 MPs in total. A royal decree announcing the dissolution was published in the Royal Gazette. It was countersigned by the PM Prayut Chan-o-cha and, of course, countersigned by His Majesty the King. And it says that the Election Commission will organise the polls within 45 to 60 days, and the government led by General Prayut would now assume a caretaker role. So they'll be hanging around. They can't actually pass any major legislation during this caretaker period, but they're there just to look after the general affairs of state until a new parliament sits. And when will that happen? Well, the Bangkok Post has given a bit of a timeline in this graphic. It actually says that the poll's going to be on May the 14th. Now, we don't know yet, but that's speculation from someone like Wisano Kriyanam, who's a deputy prime minister, sort of a bit of a head kicker for the coalition, keep everybody in line. He says May the 14th, but you can see there that even if the election is on the 7th, the 14th or the 21st, there's not going to be a new cabinet formed or a new parliament until at least August, which means all the major outstanding pieces of legislation will remain outstanding until that time. In Thai PBS World, it says that Prayut dissolves the House, making way for elections in early May, and it's been speculated that the date of the general election will either be Sunday, May the 7th, or the 14th. The House dissolution, which had long been anticipated, came just 2 days before the current 4-year term of the House was to end. The last election, March the 24th, 2019. Now, the nation is taking a slightly more nostalgic view of the whole thing, and reports on the Prime Minister's announcement and the things he said after the announcement. He said, "I'm still the same old PM," declares Prayut as he thanks the coalition and reporters for working with him. PM Prayut Chan-o-cha thanked the press, his coalition partners and members of parliament for collaborating with his government for 4 years as he announced House dissolution yesterday. Unlike his gruff self, Prayut appeared to be in a good mood while speaking to the press corps. He even flashed them mini heart signs. Now, that'll go well on his Instagram account. Prayut added that he would rely on the United Thai Nation Party to set an election campaign schedule, but added it was impossible for him to visit all provinces. Now, he will be working on behalf of the United Thai Nation Party. He's basically sort of left his old friends at Palang Pracharat and working with this new party. Let's see what his other plans are. He also apologised for sometimes being irritable with reporters because he said there was a lot of work to do. Actually, I was not really angry at anyone, he said. He also says he does not know if he will be the only PM candidate. So each party is allowed to nominate 3 prime ministerial candidates, which, if no party gets 50% of the vote plus 1, the collective Thai parliaments will sit to elect a prime minister. And he says, "I don't know if there'll be other candidates too. I can only be in office until 2025. So even if he stood as a prime ministerial candidate, he can only be around for another 2 years because of the outcome of a Constitutional Court announcement in October last year." And there he is standing with the press. Thought it was interesting there that he was posing and making the announcement in his army uniform rather than in his civilian outfits, the sateen jackets and the suit and tie that's become much more usual for him to conduct his role as Prime Minister during the past 3 or 4 years. He also hasn't decided if he's going to stand for election as an MP or whether he's just going to be content with being a prime ministerial candidate for the UTN party. We'll find out, I'm sure, in the next few days. We'll also find out an election date to be finalised by Friday. So that's the way the election's been covered in most of the Thai media. To our next story now, this covered by ASEANnow.com. And this is a follow-up to the story of the shootout between the policeman that went berserk the other day and had a shootout for over 30 hours with police before being captured, taken to hospital, where he subsequently died. And this story says that weed found in system of Inspector Khan after shooting incident in Sai Mai, Bangkok. An initial autopsy result checking on the blood of a slain policeman has revealed the presence of marijuana, as reported by ASEANnow.com. Thai media had pictures of a bong in the corner of Police Lieutenant Colonel Kitty Khan's room. The man being called Inspector Khan in the Thai press died after a shootout at the house in Sai Mai. Police spokesperson says that full autopsy results will be available in 3 days. Medics said the senior metropolitan policeman died from blood loss as a result of being shot. He also jumped from the second story of the property during the siege. That's been reported by Sanuk. And the parents of the dead policeman have also asked police for a much more exact timeline over exactly what happened and when. And they're claiming that there were many more bullets fired than they've so far disclosed. And they'd like to know some more details about exactly what happened. So that's another part of the investigation underway into last week's fatal siege. With thanks to 5-Star Marine. If you're looking for a premium private tour off the island of Phuket, then I would certainly start with 5-Star Marine. There's a link in the description of this video. And yes, they're heading me out next week onto the islands. They've told me that I'm going to 5 different islands and staying in 5 different locations, but that's about all I know. But as I promised, I'll take you with me. So that's all starting next week. Plenty more news to come, and we've got a countdown underway, just 10 days away from the end of March. And for people who have been enjoying the 45-day visa waiver, that is set to finish at the end of March, although a lot of us actually believe that it will be extended, but there's been no official announcement. Phuket-go.com says that asked the question, will the 45-day visa waiver continue after March the 31st? And last October, the Thai cabinet decided to increase the length of the visa waiver for tourists who arrive from 64 countries from 30 to 45 days. The extension was going to last until March the 31st, 2023. Here we are, 10 days out, and there's been nothing, not even a whisper of an announcement to keep the 45-day stay continuing beyond the end of March. And whilst the Tourism and Sports Minister as well as the TAT Governor have been talking up the extension of the program beyond March 31st, there's been no announcement or even discussion in the media about the situation. And as it stands today, the 45-day visa exemption, or waiver if you like, will fall back to 30 days from April the 1st. And for people who are able to get a visa on arrival, that stay was also extended last October from 15 to 30 days. That will also fall back to 15 days after March the 31st. And that article's also got a full list of the 64 countries which are currently available for a visa waiver. So that's Phuket-go.com. And another article at the same place was the red and yellow cards issued in Phuket, foreigners deported. Now, we reported this a few weeks ago about the red cards and the yellow cards, a bit like the football game where people get issued with penalties. Well, it looks like it's not only been discussed, but it's actually been implemented. Phuket's new red and yellow card system has resulted in warnings, arrests, and deportations for several foreigners in Phuket already. The system, launched earlier this month, appears to have been implemented without details or much of a public warning. And police say that the red and yellow card warnings are aimed at reducing crime and illegal activity committed by foreigners in Phuket. The new system has been initiated under the banner of the local immigration office, but has not as yet been introduced in other tourist zones around Thailand. So it seems to be just purely local for the island of Phuket at the moment. Well, let's see who's been affected so far. The system awards a yellow or red card warning for various offences with no avenue for protest or appeal. So I think that's a problem that a lot of us have with this system, that there's no redress, there's no opportunity to protest if you've been kicked out of the country. Of the 4 foreigners who received yellow card warnings, 2 were French, 1 Ukrainian and the other Swedish. If any of them receive a second warning, they may face deportation. And then more seriously, 2 foreigners have been arrested and received red cards, resulting in their immediate deportation. 1 was Swedish and the other French. So what, do you get a yellow card for not wearing your helmet? Do you get a red card for punching somebody? We don't know. So this is the way that they've categorised it. Group 1, offences relating to body and life. Group 2, offences relating to property. Group 3, special cases, which could be anything. Group 4, cases in which the state is the victim. So no particular details on specific offences, just those broad categories. And it says 5 other foreigners were found to have committed Group 4 offences, which referred to offences against the state. What is that? Things like Article 112, offences to the monarchy. Again, I think we need a lot more details, but so far people have been kicked out of the country based on the new red and yellow card system. Tuesday's TNT, and thank you for dropping in. If you haven't already done so, it would be great if you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And maybe if you've got other friends that you know are interested in Thailand, perhaps send them or share the video with them. That would really help, and of course I'd be very grateful. Now we go to the PattayaNews.com. New traffic barriers on Pattaya's walking street cause concern for the disabled. And there we've got a disabled gentleman in an electric wheelchair, and those barriers, well, they certainly would make it pretty difficult for him to get through, if not for the actual width between those 2 bars. Certainly the big bar down at the bottom. Let's try and find out some more. Pattaya City has recently installed traffic barriers on Walking Street on side sois following a recent meeting to limit the number of motorbikes and bike vendors on the street at night. And there's a better picture of the rather substantial barriers that have been put up to stop some of those motorbikes getting in. The new barriers, which can be unlocked and opened, are meant to block motorbike taxi drivers and food vendors from driving on the main pedestrian-only street after it closes each night around 7 p.m. One of the biggest complaints recently were motorbike drivers, mostly taxis, entering the road against rules and regulations. However, as seen in the photos, the new gates are also causing issues for wheelchair users and accessibility to those side sois. And then a bit further down, according to the anonymous individual who submitted the photos to the Pattaya News, this particular wheelchair user struggled to get access and was even allegedly told to go around to a different entrance, a difficult task for a disabled person. And just finally today, before we head off, just one final story, and we'll be talking, I'm sure, more about this in the next few days. But just very briefly, there's been a meeting between Xi Jinping, the president of China, and the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. And the South China Morning Post reports that Xi and Putin meet in Moscow, discuss China's peace plan for the Ukraine. So it's saying that Washington and its allies are sceptical that Xi can be an honest broker. The US is urging China and Russia to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And the 2 leaders met for 4.5 hours, and Russia media reports that Putin went out onto the street to see Xi off as they parted, a rare move for him. Also, just note that Xi Jinping, who I know is around about 5'11", about 180 centimetres, quite a lot taller than Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin a bit shorter than I thought he was. And with that, I thank you very much for watching today's program. Hopefully you're a bit more up to date. Certainly a lot more stories to follow up on in the next few days, and we certainly promise to do so. We do this 5 days a week. It's around about 15 minutes long. Then on Saturday, we've got our live program where you and I can have a chat for an hour, and that's an open discourse where you can talk about anything you want, and you're all invited. There's no cost, there's no members. And then on Sunday, we've got our new program, Grumpy Old Men. And last week, I was full of cold when I was recording with Steve. Hopefully this week, I'll be a whole lot better. Well, I am a whole lot better. Thanks for watching today. Please subscribe on your way out, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.